welcome back to season 2 of Suits and Sports. My name is Ryan James, and on behalf of Global Sports Policy Review, I would like to welcome our guest, who is an international sports lawyer who specializes in Formula One and every motorsport laws out there. She's currently the corporate lawyer at Latin America. It's Miss Madalena Ferrer. Ma'am, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Welcome to Suits and Sports.
Yes. Very good pronunciation.
So, ma'am, you're currently in Spain. So, how does it feel? How's the weather?
The weather is really nice, and especially Mallorca, that is the island where I born. So yes, here we can feel the summer. The summer is here.
Wow. I'm sure it must be a pleasant weather there. So, ma'am, I'm sure a lot of people usually ask you, how did you get into the field of law? As much as I want to know how you got into the field of law, before that, I want to know how did you get into liking sport? What was the inclination towards, having that love for sport? Was it a particular sports person that you like to watch, or was it a particular sport?
Yes, first of all, thank you so much, James, for your kind invitation. For me, it's a pleasure to be your guest. And yes, this is a common question that I receive, and very interesting question. In fact, I study law degree, but my profile is closer to international affairs due to I wanted to become a diplomat. So after this specific expertise in law and international affairs, I had studied in Fordham University of New York. I came back to Madrid and I was working really hard with immigration law, focus 100% in immigration law. It means that I was the So usually at the beginning, my tasks were about business immigration, golden visa, student visa. But then, according I got experience, I introduced with passport, athletes, player passport. And we already know that Madrid is a place to be if we talk about football, to clubs such as Atlético de Madrid, Real Madrid, and because I'm from Real Madrid, I support Real Madrid. So little by little, I receive demands. Oh, Madalena, listen, we have to move one football player. He has been accepted. However, we have some issues with the embassy. We don't know how to apply, which is the appointment immigration office, what happens with the Ministry of Interior. So, James, this is a wide range of elements that you must be able to answer if you want to provide a visa, a citizenship, or a passport for a football player. Besides of football, I provide as well some visa for tennis player that they have to play a tournament. So your time to resolve this issue is very short. Maybe if a visa takes 2 or 3 months, you have to resolve this issue maybe in 1 week. So you need to be so fast. So at this time I thought, okay, my expertise is immigration law, international affairs, but I feel quite interested by sports law. So that's why in 2018 I did my master in international sports law in ISDE Law Business School in Madrid.
Wow, I mean that's really nice, and I think that's something very important you said there, ma'am. Like, so all of us, when we see a player transferring from one club to another, we just look, okay, fine, he's moved to Real Madrid, but we don't think about how he needs a passport, he needs a visa, and lot of elements in order to sanction and go to that other country. So that's actually a interesting aspect, and I as a student, that's something I've never explored, about how you need to study immigration laws to have somebody move from country to country. So that's a very good point there, ma'am. And ma'am, so currently you are into the motorsport laws field. So could you please give us an insight as to what Fin Latin America is and what your role is with the team?
Yes, yes. So was at this time, dear James, that once I settled in a sports industry,
Hmm.
I perceive that, as we already know, besides of football, that is the common sport that most of the students want to know. I feel really attracted by motorsport. So at the beginning was Formula One. I get so fascinated on uh, how to represent the racing driver, the team engineers, how you have to deal with the escuderias. And then there is a key point is absolutely different. The agreements, the contracts within the football industry respect to motorsports. Because the legislation is absolutely different. So there is some issues that we still analyze, such as can a racing driver sign an agreement with another escuderia, meanwhile he's in a particular escuderia, when there is this conflict of interest, where you have to submit our appeal, because we don't have FIFA here, and we don't have, of course, we have FIA, that is the competent institution, but we don't have the powerful of TAS, at the least before, because the only solution in terms of legal terms that we have before was WADA. But WADA, we use WADA when we talk about anti-doping cases, doping cases. But what happens when there is this kind of case that we could say that is a sports liability, right? Sports liability. What happens with this racing driver? So this type of questions were very, very attracted for me. So I decided to explore this industry, because you know, James, that you can study, you can memorize some article, but to feel your passion, you must be there. You must be there. You need to know how is this framework. So I decided to attend the Jazz Marina Circuit Abu Dhabi in 2018, Monaco, Monte Carlo race circuit, and I came back 2 years later as well to Jazz Marina. So you can understand how is this show off. You see all the engineers. Also, James, there is an interesting question, maybe because of my background in international affairs. You can perceive that is a place to be when some sheikhs or deep investors want to reach important deals.
Okay.
So, which is our conclusion? That in Formula One, rather than a tennis tournament or a football match, Formula One, due to duration, is different. We are not talking about 1 hour and a half. We are talking about, if you are really fascinated by this world, is 3 days, at least 2. The pole position, the training day, and then the race day, the Sunday. Yes,
Right.
always is. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you perceive that is a place to be, where some international matters are developing there.
Right.
So here you can meet a lot of elements. So once I get really deep in this motorsport field, I had the pleasure to be invited by Hamad bin Khalifa University in Qatar. So I was teaching about Formula One regulation. That it was really amazing moment. I was representing some racing drivers, and after that, this January, I was appointed as a corporate lawyer from FIM Latin America.
Okay.
For me, FIM Latin America is my family. We engaged 20 countries from Latin America, Brazil, Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, Chile. So my role is develop the strategy. How can we reach good deals with our partners? Which are the right countries to benefit each other for our riders? How can improve our championships? And yes, for me it's a very beautiful task because you have to, as a sports lawyer that we have to take care about image rights, sponsorship agreements, of course, as well, conflict of interest, immigration law, as we mentioned before, deal with institutions. So my happiness is a result of always this tandem between international affairs and sports law, because I really like talk with the rest of federation, with the ministries, with private brands. Yes, 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 yes. So this is my in film Latin America. And by the way, if you let me mention, we are so happy because last week was our Misano World Circuit in Marco Simoncelli, and our driver, I want to pronounce well, Humberto Mayer from Brazil. He won the third position, so we are so happy about our riders. Yes.
Oh man, that's really nice, and I'm sure you as a sports lawyer, especially when you love a sport so much, to be so closely associated with it must feel so nice, and that's really nicely put out there, ma'am. Ma'am, so one question I've always had, and I'm sure a lot of people have, is in regards to these Formula One or any motorsport, the vehicles emit a lot of gases, so it is always in conflict with environmental laws, etc. So I want to know what are the certain measures that race car teams or even a federation takes in order to prevent or to ensure that the emissions from the vehicles are environment friendly.
Yes, yes, you are absolutely right. From my humble point of view, I consider that the racing drivers or riders, they suffer a lack of protection, a big lack of protection in terms of legal terms, because as I said before, when there is a case related to sports liability, they don't have a strong institution enough to empower them.
Understood.
So I think that here we have to make some suggestion or proposal to the task, because besides of football, tennis, baloncesto, basketball, I think that we need to develop some specific rules for them in order that when they suffer some crash, for example, imagine there are two racing drivers, and in the sixth lap, one crash another one. So as a consequence of this crash, one arrives the first position and the other one third position. How can you prove this? Which is your proof to submit to the court? I know that this is very sensitive. I know that this is very sensitive matter because there is already one body in Switzerland who is entitled to solve this kind of conflict. But I think that we need to improve and get more powerful.
Okay, ma'am. Well said, ma'am. So, in your earlier portion that you mentioned, you had talked about how doping plays a role. So, could you please tell us how doping can happen in regards to Formula One? I mean, we know doping happens in sport, but could you please give us a little more specifics as to the instances where a race car driver might be involved in doping?
Yes, yes, yes. Um, I think, but this is just my opinion,
Sure,
that
ma'am.
maybe the doping cases, maybe it's easier to perceive in MotoGP than in Formula One. Maybe
Okay.
because of the framework, because we know that in Formula One, the engineer has developed and has improved a lot. If we compare with, for example, Ayrton Senna, Alan Prost, that these cars were so heavy. So now AMG Petronas, they develop a very, or Red Bull, whatever, another Scuderia they develop. But I think that if we talk about, of course, can be involved in both fields, but I think that is easier to perceive in the MotoGP. Well, the process, I think that is the same like the other sports. They have to prove which has been your diet, and then if they perceive that you are faster than usual, that uh, let's start for the beginning. That usually that every racing driver
Right.
has his own team.
Correct.
Usually this racing driver usually has his score, his results. So usually he always is in the same position. Usually, maybe at
Okay.
the beginning he arrives 5, then third, and then according to his training, of course, he can be the first position. If, for example, the judge perceived that if this racing driver always arrived 7 position, imagine, and after 1 month instead of arrive 7 position, he arrives the first one, and he's much faster than the rest,
Correct.
could be something suspicious, right?
Yes,
Could be, could
definitely.
be.
Could be.
So, yes, this is just a possibility, could be.
Yes, ma'am.
So in these hypothetical cases, as we say in law, hypothetical cases, um, you can ask to make a test to this racing driver. So to verify if he has used some substance, they have to provide 2 type of test. First in the
Okay.
hair, and then in the urine, and then
Yes.
according to the percentage, they decide if they have use or not use. And if they consider that this racing driver or this rider has used some substance, they make an appeal to WADA, and WADA submit to the task.
Wow. Okay.
But yes, this is very interesting topic, and also Jane's so delicate because we have to take care, and sometimes we cannot mention some specific cases
Correct.
to respect our dear
Definitely.
riders or racing drivers. But for example, it depends of the country. It depends of what have you eat. For example, if you have eat meat in some specific country that is difficult to import, export, and maybe the meat arrives instead of the same day, 1 week later, and you have just eat and a stick, and tomorrow you have your circuit, maybe you have possibilities to develop some percentage of doping. So if we want to link to your question, maybe in this regard, we have to improve as well. Yes.
Yeah, I mean
Yes.
that's the aspect of doping, ma'am. Like it's a very wide scope, and we can never have a specific to it. It can be infringed in any given way, and Yes, ma'am. So, I mean, it's good to hear your experiences in regards to this. So, I just want to tell you, ma'am. So, in India currently, Formula One is not recognized as a sport. It is recognized as it's classified into the field of entertainment. So, I want to hear your thoughts and perspectives as a sports lawyer and as someone who's involved in Formula One laws. What do you think of Formula One? Should it be entertainment or should it be sport? And if it should be sport, why should it be sport?
Yes, of course, we have to do something with this, James. Must be recognized as a sport. Why? Because the racing drivers must do a really, really hard training.
Mm-hmm.
They are classified as elite athletes as well as any football player. If they want to become a racing driver, they must to focus their career on this. It's not just do some karting every Sunday. No, they have to train a lot because just because of the force that they need to get their car, they must be a strong but also healthy, because we have to be thin but strong like a football player. They have to take care about their diet. They
Mm-hmm.
cannot drink alcohol every weekend like another um, young boy can do, because they usually need to start, most of them is a dream. So maybe since they are 3 or 4 years is their dream. But in the rest of the cases, if they want to become a professional racing driver, they have to train really hard since they have 15, as a maximum 16, because the career is very difficult and the competition is really strong, James, really strong. Then, in terms of obtaining sponsors, the deals are high quantities, high quantities. This is, as they say, a glamorous world, right? It's a glamorous world. Everything is so expensive. So, of course, India must recognize, because they have to focus, they have to train a lot, they have to obtain very difficult deals to finance their career. They need a manager, they have to travel a lot. So at the end, the style life of a racing driver is the same like a football player, tennis player, and any athlete. So India must recognize Formula One as a sport.
Yeah, ma'am. I mean, that's a fair point, especially the fact that they have to sacrifice a lot, and even
Yes.
like currently in India, I mean, India recently recognized esports as this. So I feel even Formula One should eventually be classified or recognized as an official sport, and the debate is going to continue, and we do hope that India will soon come up with this. So, ma'am, developing into how a Formula One event takes place, there's obviously a lot of laws that is applicable today. So could you please tell me which and all law would be applicable? Let's say today there is a Grand Prix happening at a particular place. We can take India or Mallorca itself as an example. Let's say today there's going to be an event happening. So could you please tell me which are the laws that is going to be applicable to that one particular event?
Sorry, James, but do you mean to host the race event? The
Yes,
race event, to host the race event?
correct.
Yes, is a deep task. First, you need, James, the right framework. It means, for example, why nowadays the Formula One has become so successful in the Middle East,
Okay.
especially in Abu Dhabi, in Qatar, that before Qatar was well known by the MotoGP circuit, but since last year, as we know, they host the first Formula One race circuit, and last year as well in Saudi Arabia. Why? Because they have enough desert to build this circuit, right? They
Right.
have the space, they have the desert. For example, in Mallorca as well, we could do. Why? Because Mallorca James is well recognized because of the cycling. As an
Okay.
island, there is a lot of laps, so could be a right place to develop MotoGP or Formula One.
Okay.
However, then once we make sure that we have the right atmosphere and the right framework, we need a lot of permissions. A
Right.
lot of permissions, yes. From the registered property, from the Ministry of Interior, from the Foreign Ministry, you need a lot of permissions because you have to combine what is the building of the circuit in terms of constructor real estate, right? And then you need to obtain the approval of the FIA, of the ministry, of the sports federation. Yes, there is a lot of task to do.
Okay. Ma'am, so another thing I've wanted to know. So if you look at Formula One, it's grown exponentially, like especially over the last few years, the popularity of it has gone to a significant extent. Like today, I see a lot of people in India, like India does not even have its own racers who are at that top level. Still, there are so many fans watching F1. Like they watch more F1 than own Indian sports. So it's grown at a very high level. So ma'am, I want to know, according to you, what do you think is the future potential of Formula One? Where do you see Formula One growing to be from this point? Like from this moment, how big do you see it's going to become?
Yes, I absolutely agree with you because, in fact, in 2018, when I was telling to
Mhm.
some of my colleagues, of course, thanks God, I have had my mentors, but some colleagues, come on, Mada, what are you talking about Formula One, Ferrari? Like a joke, because if you are not involved in football, you are not a sports lawyer. Was in 2017 and 2018. So forget Formula One. This is a dream. This is in your fantasy mind. But James, as you well said, thank you too. We have to recognize that Netflix make us a big favor, right?
Yeah, yeah, correct.
With these Formula One chapters that
Drive to
if
Survive.
I'm correct, they start in 2019.
Hmm. Yeah,
So at least this is was approach where the people could perceive, this is how a team engineer must work for a racing driver. This is the duration of the Formula One. So has been a key point for us.
okay.
Then, as you said, why is growing and growing? Because esports has become very famous as well, 2018, 2019, the
Okay.
same year, esports. And then, James, the entertainment industry. Maybe before the sports lawyer was more focused on draft the agreement, make an appeal to the task. But nowadays, we take care about image rights, the sponsorship agreements, because every time we get close to each other. For example, my favorite topic, which is the influence of fashion brands to Formula One. If you
Wow.
see the campaigns from Chanel or Gucci, the models are not just in the beach. Now they are in Formula One because this is glamorous, this is the place to be. So this is entertainment. So entertainment, fashion brands, image right. So this is something that young people, the new generations want to be because they want to be in some interesting atmosphere, not just Okay, the Article 30 tell us that if this player is from Azerbaijan and the tournament has been in Japan, we have to apply the Swiss code or the civil law. This is something with the concept of progress, innovation, no, that is aligned with the social media. Because you know, James, you are younger than me, that if today you are not able to manage the social media, you don't exist.
Correct. But
So I think that the circumstances has find their balance. Social media, entertainment, image right, brand protection, fashion brands. Yes.
indeed, ma'am. I mean, the social media aspect also is very, very important, and I think only time will tell how this is going to pan out. Ma'am, so it's been a fruitful conversation so far, and before I let you off, I want to know one more thing, ma'am. So, could you please tell all our viewers out there, if somebody wants to pursue a career specifically in regards to becoming a Formula One or a motorsport lawyer, what should they do?
Um, yes, it's a difficult question. First, first, as I said in another interviews, follow their dream,
Okay.
because we are rebels, dreamers, and racing drivers or riders. So always follow and pursue our dream. Then I suggest, for example, develop some webinar, and within the Formula One, which will be, or MotoGP, which will be your role? Which will be
Okay.
your role? Would you like to be entertainment lawyer? Okay, so focus on image right within the Formula One in any law office with in a good law firm. For example, in my case, my first desire was to represent the racing driver. Represent. I want to get this racing driver. I want to advise him the value of the agreement. I want to advise if is the right moment to sign for this Scuderia, or if it's better wait 1 year, even could be a waste of time. No, is take advantage about
Right.
your experience. Now you will understand better. Now you will drive better. So I think, Jen, that is important. Okay, I want to become a Formula One lawyer. Okay, but within which specific field you want to get involved to?
Okay.
And then once you decide, follow this line.
Okay.
Image right, or representing like an intermediary, or tax cases, or doping. You can be a doping lawyer. So now focus on the WADA riders. So you have to choose.
Okay. Okay.
Then, James, as every matter, make your subscription to anything related to motorsport, autosport. There is a
Okay.
specific magazines focus
Right.
on this autosport, autosport. Watch the racing every Sunday, because even could be a common topic. Yes, but if you are really fascinated, you will perceive more details. You can read behind
Right.
why this driver has been the first one, if I saw before that did this lap. So you will touch these details.
Right.
Yes, read the FIA regulations, even just to get involved in the newsletters, in the FIA regulations, watching the racings every Sunday. Yes, develop webinars. Yes, so I think that these are small details. Then if you focus, after 1, 2, 3 years, you are inside.
And that's very well structured, ma'am. Thank you so much for like structuring it out. It is very beautifully done, and I think that's important because people just often look at, okay, fine, Formula One, but there are different aspects of it. And like example in this conversation is when I thought of immigration law itself being separate and a very important concept. So That's very nicely put out, ma'am. So thank you so much, ma'am. It was a lovely conversation with you. So as we leave, ma'am, can you just give a small snippet of advice or to all our viewers in regards to watching Formula One in Spanish?
In Spanish? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you Ok, so, si me permites, primero de todo, gracias a FIM Latinoamérica, nuestro presidente Pedro Venturo, vicepresidenta Belia, y donde he estudiado Is the Law Business School, porque gracias a ellos estoy aquí donde estoy. Nada, pues seguir vuestros sueños a por todas, mirar las carreras los domingos, suscribirte a las revistas y perseverancia, 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 porque quien la sigue la consigue.
That's great, ma'am. I hope you didn't say anything bad about me.
Oh,
Ma'am, so
James, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
thank you so much, ma'am, and all the very best, and continue to contribute to the sporting world. And you're truly an inspiration because you told us about how your friends told you, what are you going to do in 2018, and you're here, you proved them wrong. So thank you so much for being an inspiration, ma'am, and all the very best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.